Hello everyone. Okay, so the next program in chapter 4 is distance file. Okay, so modify the program you wrote for programming challenge 2, which is distance traveled. So it write the report to a file instead of the screen. Open the file in Notepad or another text editor to confirm the output. Okay, so if you remember, the previous video was distance traveled. This is a question for question 3. So it says we should modify the program to, the program you wrote in programming 2. So that means I'm just going to use the exact copy of programming 2, and then I'll change it based on this question. So what I'll do is I'll copy the question. Actually, I'll cut it, and then I'll close this file, and then I'll open. What did it say? All right. So okay, now I have a new file here, but I'll open the previous program we wrote in Java. So programming challenges, I think it's chapter, so distance traveled. Okay, so this is the program we wrote in the previous question, which is distance traveled. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this question and replace it with the new question, which I cut. So I'll paste it. So now we have the correct question, or the question for this one. Okay, so we are going to modify this program, which is the previous program we wrote, which is distance traveled, not distance found, but distance traveled. And it says modify the program you wrote for programming challenge 2, distance traveled. So it writes the report to a file instead of the screen. Open the file in Notepad or another text editor to confirm the output. Okay, so sorry. So what's going to happen is this program is going to stay the same. The only difference is the program wants us to, instead of displaying this result. So as it stands, if I compile this and I run it and I enter, let's say for my speed, if I enter, let's say 40, and I enter 3 hours, it's going to display on the screen like this. The question for number 3, distance file, wants us to display this result in a file, and then open the file and confirm if the results have been written to the file. So we're going to do that. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is, since we are going to be working with files, we need to import the file class, okay, so that we can have access to the methods in there, okay, so that we can work with it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So import java.io, the asterisk sign, okay. This is just because we're going to be working with files. So I'm going to import that class so that the program can have access to it. Okay, just like the scanner class, we had to import the scanner class so we can have access to it. We have to import the file, the file class, okay, and it's java.io asterisk, so that the program can have access to it. Sorry for that. Sorry for the cough. All right. Okay, so now we've imported this class, so we have access to it. So the next thing we need to do is we need to create an object. See, just like we created the scanner object, we need to go ahead and create a print writer object. Okay, a print writer object is going to allow us to create a file and type stuff in the file. So I'm going to create a print writer object, and I'm going to start with print writer. So okay, that's the name of the class basically, and the object is I'm going to call the object this. Sorry, my cough is almost gone. It's almost gone, but it's just the remnants are still there. So sorry about that. So I'm going to call the file or the object. Okay, so this object is going to basically reference the file. So I'm going to call this object, okay, distance traveled. I think traveled is 1L. Okay, so distance traveled, I'm not sure, maybe a double L. Okay, anyways, I'm going to spell it 1L in this case. If it's double L, go ahead and change it. All right, so distance traveled file, that's what I'm going to call the object name. So distance traveled file, okay, I'm going to go ahead and create a new print writer, and I'm going to call, okay, so this is where you enter the name of the file, you want to create, okay, the name of the file you want to create. So remember, if the file name, okay, if whatever file name you type here, okay, if the file already exists, this is basically going to overwrite what's in that file. It's basically going to, let's say, imagine it as deleting that old file and then writing, deleting that old file and then creating a new file with the same file name with new content, okay? Or you can think of it this way: it's going to overwrite the content of the file if the file already exists. So if I type, let's say, something.txt, if something.txt already exists, basically this statement is going to basically delete everything in that file and then replace it with what I'm about to type in this file. It's going to overwrite the content in that file because I'm creating it again. When you use print writer, that's what happens. It's basically going to overwrite it. There is a way to fix that, but this question is not about that. Eventually we'll get to it. But I'm going to create a file with a file name distance traveled file, okay, .txt. So that's the file it's going to create. Okay, that's the file it's going to create, and this object is basically going to reference this file. So right now I've imported my class, okay, and I've created a file. I've created an object, okay, and this object is going to reference this file. So I have the file. All I have to do now is print to it, okay, type in stuff, okay, or put output, okay, it's my output, so type in something. So, all right, so I'm going to come down here. So now, because we are writing to a file, I don't want this to display, okay, I don't want this to display, okay, on the screen. I don't want it to display in the console over here, on the screen, or in the pane over here. I want to go ahead and print first this header in the file, okay, and the way I do that is first let me go ahead and comment this, okay, so I can refer to it, because that's exactly what I'm going to type in the file. Oh boy, okay. All right, so I want to go ahead and type this in the file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the object name distance traveled file, okay, distance traveled file, and I'm going to say .println, because now I have the file, so I'm using the object's name and I'm printing stuff in there, and what I'm going to print in there is basically exactly this, the same thing. I'm not going to change anything. I'm printing exactly that. I'm printing hour, I'm putting a tab, distance traveled, breaking the line, underlining it, and underlining both of them basically. So that's the first thing I'm printing in the file. So this is going to be printed in the file first. It's not going to be in the loop, so it's going to serve as a header, okay, just like this one. I'm going to go ahead and delete this one. See, now that I have that printed, I'm fine. So now I have if this runs, I'm going to have the header printed in the file. And then now let's work on printing the content of the loop in the file as well. So over here we calculated distance traveled. This is where we are printing the hour and then the distance traveled. So let's go ahead, instead of printing it on the screen, I'm going to go ahead and print it in the file. So again, I'm going to use the same object name, which is distance traveled. I made it double. No, it's fine. That's a different thing altogether. All right. So distance traveled .println, and again, I'm going to go ahead and highlight comment this out because I don't want to print it on the screen anymore. I'm going to print this. Sorry, the same thing here in the file. I'm going to print the hour with a tab, and then the distance traveled. I don't want this displayed on the screen. I can leave this as a comment, but I don't want to. I don't need it. So I'm going to go ahead and delete it. So now I've printed the header. If this runs, I'm going to print the header in the file, and the loop is basically going to calculate the values. It's going to display the hour and the distance traveled, and it's going to calculate for each iteration. So when we are done, it's going to have everything displayed in the file. Now, just so well, we haven't saved this, so I'm going to create a new folder. So the file by default is created in the folder where you are saving your Java class. Your Java file, not your Java class, but your Java file. So by default, that's where the file, this file, distance traveled.txt is going to be created. Sorry. That's where distance traveled is going to be created. Distance traveled file.txt is going to be created. So in that case, now by this point we are done with the header, done with all the values. So if we are done with everything, the last thing we need to do is we need to close the file. Okay, and the way you close the file is with the name of the file, the object that references the file. So distance traveled file, that's the object here. Distance traveled file sorry, dot close. You just use the method dot close, and then you're done. So now we imported this class. We created a printWriter object which references this file that we are going to create. If it doesn't exist, it's going to create this file. If it exists already, it's going to delete that file and replace it with this one, or it's going to overwrite the contents and replace it with the contents we're going to put in this one. And we are printing stuff in there. The first thing we printed in there was the header of the output we're going to display, which is not in the loop, so it's going to print once. And the values that are going to follow the header, those are in the loop, so that's going to they're going to follow the header, and they're going to repeat basically. And all that's based on what the user types. Nothing has changed with the program. It's just that we are only printing in a file. And once we are done printing all that stuff, we close the file. Okay, we are closing the file by using the object's name, which references the distance traveled file.txt. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and compile it, which is going to prompt it. Oops, we have an error. Let's see. You know what? I should have. I think what is happening is it's trying to. Okay, so I have a big problem. I didn't. I'll fix this later. I'll fix the old program later, because what happened was I opened the original file and I forgot to save as. So now I have overwritten the question 2, the question 2 number 4. I've overwritten that. So I'm going to go ahead and save this as. I'm going to go to chapter 4 and create a new folder here, because now I've overwritten this program. Now has become distance traveled, but don't worry, I'll go ahead and change it. I'll just delete stuff. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder. I'm going to call it what was the name of that program? Let's see if it allows me to do that. The name of it was distance file. Okay, so I'm going to save this as sorry, I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it distance file, and I'm going to save this as just distance file. Distance file.java. Okay, so now I have the correct. So now I've created a copy of the original problem, which is I made a copy of number 2 and I've changed it. But the thing is, now number 2, which is distance travel, now contains this code basically. So later on, after this is done, I'll go to program file number 2. Just for my record, I'll just go and change it. But we are still working with this question, so we're fine. All right, so let me go ahead and compile it, and I think we have an error. All right, so it says distance. Okay, so because the name of the file has to match the name of the class, so I need to change this from distance travel to distance file. So I'm going to change it to distance. Okay, you see the error says, class distance traveled is public, should be declared in a file name distance traveled. Okay, so it's basically saying that this name has to, it should be declared in a file name distance traveled, because I named the class distance traveled. But I'm going to go ahead and change the name of the class to distance file so it matches. So distance file, and then I'm going to go ahead and compile it. All right, so the next error is let's see, cannot find symbol distance file location. Let's see, distance traveled. Let's see. Okay, so over here, distance traveled, I used, let's see. Oh, so the object I named it distance traveled file. But over here, when I was referring to the object, I just said distance traveled. So I meant distance traveled file. And over here too, I think I used a correct one here. And I'll go ahead and compile it. All right, so more errors. Let's see. Okay, so java.io file not found exception must be caught or declared to be thrown. Okay, so if you know more about input output or working with files and writing to files and reading from files, basically the print writer class or any time you okay, so the print writer class has the potential to throw exceptions. So for example, if we're trying to, let's say, create this file and all of a sudden my computer is full, then it's going to this whole block over here, or this the print writer is going to throw an exception and say that, hey, I can't create this file because your hard disk is full. But the thing is, we have to deal with that error. We have to either write code to deal with that error, or we have to throw the exception back. Throw the exception back. Okay, basically when you do that, it's going to take care of it for now. Because this chapter doesn't talk about writing code to take care of exceptions that are thrown from the print writer, we are going to throw the exception back. Okay, for now, let's just stick with that. And then as we write programs that deal with exceptions, we'll understand more of it, and we'll fix it. So again, either we write code to deal with it. Okay, for now we're not going to write code to deal with it. Okay, or we throw the exception back. Okay, so basically any method. Okay, this whole main here is a method. Okay, this whole main here is a method. Everything that's highlighted here is in the main method. Okay, so anytime you use the print writer in any method, right, you have to add this this here, throws IO exception. All right, so throws IO exception here, when you have to add it to the method, this main method, because now it contains a print writer it's using a print writer which has the potential to throw an exception. Okay, so when you add throws IO exception to the method that contains the print writer, okay, because the print writer has the potential to throw an exception, when you add the throws IO exception, all you are saying is this print writer now has the potential to throw an exception. So when it does, please deal with it. Okay, so it basically means that. But okay, so either you do this, or you write code yourself to deal with it. But for now, like I said, this chapter doesn't talk about writing code to deal with it. So we are going to throw the exception back and say, and this basically means that look, this main method, okay, contains print writer, and print writer has the potential to throw an exception or an error message. So because I haven't learned, okay, I'm talking, on behalf of all of us. So because we haven't learned how to write code to deal with it, I'm adding throws IO exception to say that, look, this print writer has the potential to throw an exception. So when it does, please deal with it. Okay, so. And I'm adding it to this method, the method header here, because this method contains the print writer. Okay, so throws IO exception. So I'm going to go and again, and as another thing, any method that contains a print writer, okay, you have to add throws IO exception. Okay, another thing is any method, okay, that contains another method, okay, that contains a print writer okay, basically you have to add throws IO exception. So in other words, if this main method contains another method, all right, that use, let's say, a print writer, you have to add throws IO exception to that method, and at the same time add throws IO exception to the main method. Why? Because the main method contains that method that contains a print writer. So you have to basically add throws IO exception to both of them. Okay, so not to confuse anyone, but like I said, we'll get there. But we have to add throws IO exception here because the main method is the one that contains the print writer, and the print writer has the potential to throw an exception. But because we haven't learned how to write code to deal with that exception, we are adding the string to the method header, the method header over here, and saying that, look, this print writer has the potential to throw an exception. So please, when it does, deal with it, okay, until I learn how to write my own code to deal with this exception. Okay, that's all this question is trying to say. Sorry for the long talk. I'm just trying to create some kind of understanding. Okay, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and compile this, and let's see if it works. Okay, so it works. It compiled successfully. All right, so now we remember we created a folder for this. Okay, it has distance file. Let's just go ahead and open it to see if that's the folder. Okay, distance file. I'm opening it just to see if we have any file in there. The only things we have in there is just distance file .class file, distance file .java file, and the distance file .java. I've forgotten what this thing's called, but you see it. Okay, so these three files. All right. So we don't have any txt file. We haven't created the file yet. We haven't created this txt file yet. So I'm going to cancel it. When I compile and I run this and I type in something, and this program goes ahead to type this program goes ahead to output something to the file. The file is going to be created. Now, when the file does not exist, this file is going to be created in the same folder where you created or where you saved your distance file .java. Okay, the Java file. So I'm going to run this program, and that's exactly what's going to happen. We're going to open back that folder and check to see if the file has been created. Open that file to see if the content has been created. So please enter the speed of the vehicle in miles per hour. I'm going to enter 40, and I'm going to enter sorry, I'm going to enter 3 for hours. Okay, so I'm going to hit enter. Oh, by the way, I'm going to go ahead and cancel this. I didn't run it. I didn't do anything. As you can see, I'm going to open it again. Oh, it tried to create it because we run the program. All right, so what I'll do is I have it here. Basically, when you create another file, it's going to overwrite it. But I want to start afresh. I forgot to add one more thing in the program. All right, so it's Java. It's Programming Challenges, Chapter 4. Distance file. So this is a file. I'm going to go ahead and delete it. All right. Sorry. What I wanted to add was this. I wanted to, once this has been written, there's nothing that tells us that, oh, the file has been, or the output has been written to a file. So I'm going to go ahead after the loop and system.out.print. This is just to display on the screen to say that, look, the stuff we wanted to print in the file has been printed. So I'm just going to say the output has been printed in the file name here, distance travel.txt, in distance travel.txt. I'm going to add quotations around this. Okay, so now watch this. Now this, let me space this out. So this quotation is the opening quotation of the string, and this quotation is the closing quotation of the string. Now, because I have two double quotes in this opening and closing quotation. So it's going to complain, right? It's going to complain over here. It's going to think that I'm opening it here, I'm opening the string here, and I'm closing the string here. It doesn't know what this is. I mean, it knows what this is, but it doesn't know what I'm doing with these two, with this string here and this variable. It's going to think I'm opening the string here and closing the string here. So in other words, I need to escape it. I need to find a way to tell Java that, look, this is stuff I just want it print. I just want to print. I just want to display on the screen. So don't treat this as a variable, or just treat this as regular text. So I need to say ignore this as me trying to close this string here. Just ignore it. Don't see this quotation as me trying to close the string. So the way I do that is I'm going to put a backslash in front of it, and I'm saying, look, escape this, ignore this, and treat it as a regular string. I'm going to do the same thing for the closing of that. So basically, this is basically going to display as a regular string. It's going to say, look, ignore this, don't treat it as me trying to close this string here, and ignore that. Okay, don't treat it as me trying to open another double quote and closing it here. Just print this as a regular string without the backslash. The backslash is just to say ignore what's in front of this. Ignore what's in front of it. Ignore what's in front of the backslash. Ignore what's in front of the backslash. Ignore what's immediately in front of the backslash. Okay, so in this case, it's going to be the double quote. The backslash, ignore what's immediately in front of the backslash. In this case, ignore this one. Okay, I think I'm talking too much or over-explaining, over-complicating stuff. Not over-explaining, over-complicating stuff. So I hope you get it, though. I'm escaping these two characters. So these two characters, so they display as strings on the screen. Okay, so once we print something, this message is going to display and basically tell us that, look, we have printed out stuff in the file. So I'm going to compile it. Oops, what happened? System. Okay, I forgot to type system. I said system. All right, so system, and I'll compile it and run it just to make sure. Like the file has been created again. It's fine because I run the program. All right, so I'm going to enter 3. Please enter the number of hours the vehicle has traveled. I'm going to enter. Oh, I meant I meant to type in 40 and 3. So speed of the vehicle 40. Number of hours 3, and hit enter. Now it says the output has been printed in distance travel the distance travel file.txt. So now let's open and see. Okay, it won't allow us to do that. It will only allow us to open Java files here. So I'm going to go ahead to my desktop, open the folder, open programming challenges in chapter 4 distance file, and this is the file here. I'm not going to open it fully. I'm going to use the preview feature in Mac just to preview it. So I'm going to hit the space, and as you can see, the output has been printed to the file. I'm going to go ahead and run this program again. But again, remember I said, now when we run this program again, it's going to act as it's going to try to create this file again, because we created the file, we typed in stuff, and we closed it. So when I run the program again, it's basically trying to create this file again. So what it means is it's going to overwrite the content of that file with what I'm about to type, because it has the same file name. Okay, and I'm using the sorry, because it has the same file name, and I'm using the printwriter class. So I'm going to change. Remember, I used 40 for the first one and 3 for hours. I'm going to change this to 67 for the speed. And hours, I'm going to use, let's say, 19. Okay, so it's basically going to print 19 fields, or 19 records. All right, so I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to say the output has been printed in distance traveled file.txt. So I'm going to open the folder again. I'm going to, chapter 4 distance file, and let's see, preview version, and see we have 19 records, and it printed the file, or it printed the stuff in the file. This is just a preview version. If I open with text edit, it's probably going to take some time, but when this opens fully, which is, yeah, it's open fully now, see, this is the file, and I can even modify it. It's just like a regular file, but it's been typed or output. It's been output to this file by the program. All right, so sorry for again if I was talking too much again. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to make it clear. Okay, so I hope this helped, and I hope this helped bring some understanding to you with regards to files. This chapter talks more about files. We'll be probably working with more programs about files. So yeah. Thank you very much for watching. Please, if you have any questions, comment down below, and I'll do everything to respond to them. Take care of yourselves. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time with the next program. Bye-bye.